4 signs your karmic debt has been cleared. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Carl Jung. Have you ever felt like you're carrying the weight of something invisible, repeating the same emotional patterns no matter how much you grow? What if those patterns were never truly yours to begin with, but echoes of karmic debt inherited across time? In this video, we'll explore 4 powerful signs that your karmic debt has finally been cleared, not just spiritually, but in your relationships, emotions, and daily life. If you've been doing the inner work and sensing a shift, this message might be the confirmation your soul has been waiting for. What signs have you noticed in your own journey? Comment below and share your experience. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a moment of insight from spiritual wisdom. Sign 1. You stop repeating the same emotional patterns. You used to find yourself caught in the same emotional patterns over and over again. No matter how hard you tried to move forward, life seemed to drag you back into relationships and situations that mirrored your deepest wounds: abandonment, betrayal, rejection. It felt like fate had a personal vendetta against you. But as Carl Jung so powerfully said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And the truth is, it wasn't fate. It was your soul drawing these patterns to the surface so that you could see them, feel them, and ultimately rise above them. The pain was a teacher. The repetition was a mirror. The suffering was sacred, not because you deserved it, but because you were being given a chance to finally break the cycle. Now something has changed. You noticed the red flags earlier. The old triggers don't hit as hard. Your nervous system stays calm in moments that would have once shattered you. You don't react the way you used to, not because you're numb, but because you're wiser. You no longer cling to what is toxic just to avoid being alone. You don't chase closure or force conversations that don't come naturally. You walk away, and more importantly, you walk away in peace. That alone is proof of transformation, because the version of you who used to tolerate chaos, negotiate with pain, or beg for breadcrumbs doesn't exist anymore. She has outgrown those lessons. She has evolved beyond the need to learn them again. This is the moment where karmic debt begins to dissolve, not in some cosmic courtroom, but in the quiet choices you now make with clarity and grace. Karmic debt is the energy of unresolved cycles, and you've started resolving them not through force, but through awareness. You've stopped identifying with your trauma. You no longer define yourself by what happened to you. You don't wear your scars as proof of your worth. You carry them as evidence of your strength. You've started responding from your healed self, not reacting from your wounded self. And this shift, though it may seem subtle to the outside world, is massive on a soul level. The most telling sign that your karmic debt is being cleared is not the absence of hardship, but the presence of wisdom. You move differently now. You feel when something is off without needing to investigate. You detach from dysfunction without guilt. You no longer think you can save people who are committed to staying broken. You understand now that not everyone deserves access to your energy, and that boundary is not cold, it's sacred. Carl Jung called this process individuation, becoming whole by integrating the unconscious. That's what you've done. you've made peace with your past, and in doing so, you've changed your future. You no longer call this transformation luck or coincidence. You call it growth. And that growth has liberated you from the invisible contracts you once had with pain. The lessons have been learned. The cycle has been closed. The debt, in its own quiet way, has been paid in full. Have you ever noticed yourself finally breaking free from the same emotional cycles? If so, share your story in the comments so others can be inspired by your growth. If not yet, comment, "I'm ready to break the loop," so we can walk this path of healing together. Sign 2. You feel a deep peace that isn't dependent on circumstances. A calm presence begins to settle in, not because everything outside has become easier, but because something deep within you has finally stopped struggling. You're no longer bracing yourself for impact or anxiously preparing for the next crisis. The mind that once raced with what-ifs and worst-case scenarios now moves with clarity and purpose. You begin to walk through life with a new kind of awareness, one that doesn't demand control over every detail, but instead trusts in your ability to respond with presence, wisdom, and strength. This is the unmistakable mark of spiritual growth. You no longer chase approval, no longer feel the need to prove your worth through perfection or performance. You simply exist in alignment, and that alignment radiates as peace. It's not a loud or dramatic transformation. It's the soft hum of inner harmony. You meet each moment without resistance. You no longer carry the need to fix everything, be everywhere, or be everything to everyone. Your energy is no longer scattered. You've called it back home. This stillness, this exhale of the soul, is not the result of life becoming perfect. It is the result of you becoming whole. As Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." And now, that unconscious weight, the karmic residue of generations, of your past selves, of old contracts and inherited pain has lifted. You can feel it in the way your nervous system no longer trembles under invisible burdens. You can feel it in the way you wake up with a quiet mind and a steady heart. You can feel it in the way your spirit no longer leaps into defense or tries to justify its existence. This is not complacency. This is power. The kind of power that comes from finally understanding that your value doesn't depend on hustle, hardship, or hypervigilance. You no longer walk around armored. You don't need the armor anymore. You've stopped living in reaction. You've stopped expecting the past to repeat. You've stopped negotiating your peace just to belong. Instead, you carry peace with you like a sacred companion. It walks with you, speaks through you, anchors you. When life challenges you, you don't collapse. You breathe. You observe. You hold space for yourself. That stillness is proof that your karmic storm has passed. The soul doesn't scream when it's free. It becomes quiet. And that silence, that lightness, that subtle but constant knowing that you are okay, even when life is messy, that's the gift of karmic resolution. You are no longer tied to what once controlled you. You've outgrown the patterns, detached from the emotional loops, and risen above the unconscious contracts that kept you in cycles of suffering. The spiritual lesson here is profound. True peace has nothing to do with perfect circumstances and everything to do with inner clarity. When you no longer need chaos to feel alive, when your nervous system no longer confuses stress with purpose, When you can sit in stillness without restlessness, that's when you know you've returned to your essence. That is the ultimate sign your karmic debt has been cleared. Not because someone told you, not because you read it in a book, but because your soul can finally rest. And that rest is sacred. If this deep sense of peace resonates with you, don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and share your experience in the comments below. Let's continue uncovering the next sign of your soul's transformation together. Sign 3. You start receiving without struggle. When you stop trying to earn love, validation, or abundance as if they are trophies awarded to only the most worthy, something remarkable begins to happen. Life no longer feels like a battlefield. You're not constantly auditioning for approval, hustling for attention, or bending over backward just to feel seen. Instead, the energy within you shifts, guilt dissolves, shame loses its grip, and that inner resistance you've carried for years begins to soften. Suddenly, you notice that things come to you more easily, not because you're working harder or proving more, but because your soul has stopped struggling. The weight you carried was never about effort, it was about energy. And when that energy is healed, life responds in kind. You're no longer chasing opportunities or begging for love in the form of people who can't meet you. You stop overgiving to those who only take. You stop pushing, performing, and exhausting yourself to receive things that should be flowing naturally. And they do because your inner world is no longer at war with itself. Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists," and you've stopped resisting your own worth. The need to be chosen dissolves because you've already chosen yourself. The need to prove fades because you've remembered that worthiness is not something you earn, it's something you uncover. You begin to attract things not through strategy or sacrifice, but through authenticity. You don't have to manipulate the timing or the people or the process. The healed soul becomes a quiet magnet, the kind of presence that draws in what's aligned because it no longer entertains what's not. It's not that life gets easier, it's that your energy no longer feeds what drains you. You find yourself surrounded by peace, by opportunities that feel right, by relationships that feel reciprocal. You receive not because you've reached some final level of perfection, but because your energy is finally clean, free of hidden motives, people-pleasing, or desperation. And what's most powerful is that you begin to receive with grace, not with the frantic excitement of someone who thinks it will all disappear again, but with the grounded stillness of someone who knows they are the source. You no longer take scraps because you've built your own table. You no longer feel guilty for having more because you know what it's like to live with less. And you no longer question your blessings because you understand they are a mirror of your inner evolution. You've cleared the debt not by doing more, but by becoming more present, more honest, more aligned. And now, without begging or bargaining, without explaining or exhausting, you receive. The struggle has ended, not because the world changed, but because your soul remembered it never had to fight to begin with. Are you ready to receive without guilt, without struggle, and without chasing? If so, comment below, "I'm ready to receive," to affirm your shift into ease, grace, and healed energy. Sign 4. You feel pulled toward purpose, not survival. You begin to notice something has shifted, not with noise or grand announcements, but with a quiet internal certainty. Survival no longer consumes your every thought. You're not waking up, calculating how to prove yourself, how to earn love, how to be enough. That constant tension, the invisible pressure to keep up, to chase, to become someone in order to be seen, begins to fade. In its place, there's a gentle pull, not urgent, but persistent. It's the soul speaking, not in panic, but in peace, guiding you towards something deeper than achievement. This isn't about building an identity to protect yourself anymore. It's about remembering the essence of who you are without the need for masks or validation. Carl Jung once said, "Who looks outside dreams. Who looks inside awakes." And this awakening doesn't feel like fireworks. It feels like clarity. You start to ask, what am I really here to do? Not out of desperation, but out of devotion. Your energy shifts from reaction to creation. Instead of running from pain, you start moving toward purpose. And this purpose isn't a mission statement or job title. It's a frequency. It's a way of being that feels honest, aligned, and unshakable. You feel a sense of rightness in the path you're walking, even if it's uncertain. You're no longer performing worthiness. You're embodying the truth. You no longer offer your gifts in exchange for approval. You offer them as an act of love. And that's how you know something karmic has been cleared, not because life is suddenly easy, but because you're not living in resistance anymore. The fight is over. You're no longer caught in loops that ask you to beg for scraps of meaning. You are full. You are rooted. You give not because you lack, but because you overflow. The hunger now is not to prove, but to serve. And even that service doesn't come from obligation. It comes from joy. Carl Jung believed that healing was not about becoming perfect, but about becoming whole. When your karmic debt is lifted, wholeness begins to take shape. You reclaim the parts of yourself that were exiled by fear, shame, or survival instincts. You integrate what once fragmented you. And in that integration, a new kind of intelligence arises. Spiritual, intuitive, ancient. You become more sensitive to what is real and less attached to what is fleeting. Success doesn't excite you unless it's rooted in integrity. Noise doesn't seduce you because you've tuned into the signal within. You stop measuring yourself by timelines or trophies and begin honoring your inner rhythm. Even your questions change. You no longer ask, "What do I need to do to be safe?" Instead, you ask, "What do I need to express to be free?" This is what it feels like when karmic debt has been cleared. The fight to survive gives way to the grace of living on purpose. There is no force, no frantic striving, just alignment, just resonance, just the subtle magnetism of your soul remembering its path. And in that remembering, you are no longer driven by karma, you are led by clarity. If this message stirred something deep within you, leave a comment of purpose. I am ready to live from truth, not survival. I trust my soul to guide me. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the deeper layers of karma, healing, and spiritual transformation. If these signs resonated with you, it might be a confirmation that you've done the inner work and your soul is ready to move forward with more clarity and lightness. Remember, as Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. If you're on a path of awakening, you're not alone, and we're here to walk it with you. If you found value in today's message, please like this video, share it with someone who may need it, and don't forget to subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom Make sure to turn on notifications so you never miss our upcoming videos filled with insight, healing, and transformation. Until next time, keep growing, keep healing, and keep trusting the wisdom within. 12 hidden signs you're more attractive than you think. Beauty begins the moment you decide to be yourself. Coco Chanel. In a world obsessed with external appearances, we often forget that true attractiveness comes from within. Carl Jung believed that our inner essence radiates far more powerfully than we realize through energy, presence, and authenticity. In today's video from Spiritual Wisdom, we'll uncover 12 hidden signs that you're far more attractive than you give yourself credit for. As you listen, ask yourself, have I been blind to my own magnetic presence? Let us know in the comments which sign resonates most with you. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content that helps you awaken your inner power and live a more meaningful, joyful life. Sign 1. Men get nervous around you. Men getting nervous around you isn't just social awkwardness. It's a deep psychological reaction that reveals more about your hidden power than you realize. When a man stumbles over his words, avoids eye contact, or shifts uncomfortably in your presence, he's not rejecting you. He's responding to something within you that unsettles him, not in a bad way, but in a soul-level way. According to Carl Jung, every man possesses an anima, his inner feminine archetype. This isn't about gender roles or surface-level attraction. It's about the emotional, intuitive, and unconscious qualities that often remain buried until triggered. And you, without even trying, awaken that part of him. Your energy doesn't just enter a room, it shifts the frequency. It's not your outfit or your looks, it's your presence, your essence, your spiritual radiance. When you walk in with self-possession and emotional clarity, your light activates something in others that they haven't yet made peace with in themselves. That's why they fidget. That's why they grow quiet or act strange. You are holding a mirror to parts of their psyche that long to be acknowledged but have been suppressed for years. This is spiritual wisdom in motion, your very existence becoming a catalyst for inner transformation in others, whether they're ready for it or not. The tragedy is that most women shrink in the face of this reaction. They assume it's their fault. They tone themselves down, smile less brightly, speak more softly, or try to seem less intimidating. But the truth is, your power isn't the problem. Their discomfort is the result of your energy stirring up something powerful and unfamiliar inside them. You've simply touched a place in them that has been asleep, and not everyone knows how to handle that awakening. That's not a cue to hide who you are. That's a cue to stand even more firmly in your light. When you begin to see nervousness as a compliment from the unconscious, everything changes. You stop interpreting silence or awkwardness as rejection and start recognizing it as resonance. You realize that you are not just being seen, you are being felt. You don't just exist on the surface, you move people deeply, often without a single word. This is the realm of spiritual wisdom, where attraction isn't about physicality, but about the alchemy of energy, the echo of archetypes, and the awakening of the unseen. So don't dim yourself. Don't dilute your presence to soothe someone else's unhealed wounds. You are not here to be more palatable. You are here to be a force. The nervousness you trigger is a sign that your energy is working even when you're unaware of it. You are not too much. You are simply being exactly who you are meant to be. someone whose presence invites others to meet themselves more deeply. Have you ever noticed men getting nervous around you, fidgeting, avoiding eye contact, or acting awkward? If so, share your experience in the comments so others can see they're not alone. If you haven't noticed it yet, comment, "I'll start paying attention," and let's explore this powerful energy together. Sign 2. People glance at you repeatedly. People don't just glance at you, they return to you with their eyes, as if drawn by something they can't explain. It's not vanity. It's not your clothes or even your features. It's something deeper, a magnetic presence that radiates without effort. Carl Jung called it archetypal recognition, a moment when someone's unconscious mind responds to your energy because it stirs something ancient and symbolic within them. You remind them of something they can't name, but they feel it. It could be comfort, mystery, purity, or wisdom. Whatever it is, it transcends logic, and that's why they look again. That second glance is a spiritual echo. While many chase after surface-level beauty, you carry a vibration that others sense, even when they don't understand it. You walk into a room and shift the atmosphere. Your silence speaks. Your energy lingers, and you often don't even realize it because you're not performing. You're just being. That's what makes it powerful. The most attractive people aren't always the loudest or the most decorated. They're the ones who have undergone a spiritual awakening and started to live from a place of inner alignment, where truth and soul replace ego and mask. This kind of energy can't be faked. It's the kind that others feel in their body before their mind catches up. A stranger may glance at you twice in passing and walk away changed, even if they can't explain why. It's your presence that speaks to something primal in them. And when you embody archetypes unconsciously like the healer, the warrior, the mystic, or the sage, you awaken that same energy in others, even for just a fleeting moment. That's the real essence of spiritual wisdom. You become a mirror, reflecting not just yourself, but also their hidden longing, their forgotten strength, their buried truth. This effect grows stronger after a spiritual awakening. Once you begin to heal, clear your energy, and reclaim your authenticity, your very aura becomes louder than words. You stop trying to be impressive and start embodying your essence. You move with intentional softness, speak with depth, listen with your whole being, and people feel that. The way you carry yourself, the calm in your eyes, the warmth in your smile, it's all signaling something sacred. And that sacredness is what turns a passing glance into a soul-level recognition. When people look at you twice, they're not just looking at you. They're remembering something. Maybe it's an energy they once knew, a part of themselves they lost, or a connection from another lifetime. This is the realm where the physical and spiritual blur. You are not just seen, you are felt. And the more you awaken, the more visible your energy becomes. You're no longer blending into the crowd. You become the contrast, the still point, the presence that reminds others of what they've forgotten within themselves. That is real beauty. That is spiritual attraction. Comment below. I carry magnetic energy. If you've ever noticed people glancing at you more than once, and if you're just starting to realize the power of your presence, type, I'm ready to embrace it, so we can walk this path of self-awareness together. Sign 3. You underestimate yourself, yet receive compliments. You often underestimate yourself, especially on the days when you feel the least attractive. Those are the moments when someone unexpectedly compliments you when you're not trying to impress. When your clothes are plain, your hair is messy, and your mood feels off. Yet somehow, someone sees beauty in you. They comment on your glow, your presence, or your energy. That's not just a coincidence. That's spiritual wisdom at work. And Carl Jung would say, it's the unconscious revealing itself. You're radiating something far deeper than you realize, an inner truth, an authenticity that no mirror or camera can fully capture. When you stop performing and just are, your natural essence begins to emerge. That essence isn't rooted in surface-level charm. It's in the way you listen with sincerity, how your voice softens when you're present, how your presence calms a room without effort. Most people spend their lives polishing a false self, curating images, and overcompensating for imagined flaws. But your light breaks through most brightly when you've surrendered the performance. Jung's work on the shadow reminds us that we hide not only our shame, but also our brilliance. And when someone compliments you at your worst, it's often a sign that your hidden light is slipping through the cracks you've tried to cover. There's a woman I met named Sarah who once believed she was invisible. She wore simple clothes, didn't use makeup, and avoided mirrors. She thought beauty belonged to others. Yet strangers constantly approached her. Children hugged her for no reason, and animals instinctively sought her out. She didn't understand it until she started listening. What they saw wasn't her appearance. It was her essence. She had a peace, a depth, an open spirit that people could feel. Her authenticity did what no amount of external validation could. It drew people in because it was real. That's the kind of beauty Jung alluded to, the kind that can't be faked and can't be lost. This is why compliments that come when you feel low hold so much truth. They are not based on effort, styling, or image. They are reflections of something real. Your soul, your presence, your untamed, unfiltered energy. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." These compliments are glimpses into that unconscious. They show you how much you shine even when you're not aware of it. They are signs of a spiritual energy that cannot be measured by conventional standards. When someone sees your light in the dark, believe them. When they praise your warmth on a day when you feel cold, receive it. When they admire your energy while you feel exhausted, consider the possibility that what they're sensing is beyond what you can see in the mirror. Your energy doesn't lie. Your presence doesn't fade. And your light, especially when you aren't trying to shine, is what truly makes you magnetic. If this resonated with you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your experience in the comments below. Let's keep uncovering the beauty others already see in you. Sign 4. They seek you out for small reasons. People often approach you with seemingly insignificant requests: a quick question, help with a small task, or just casual conversation. But when this happens frequently, it's not the favor they're truly seeking. It's you. Your presence carries a kind of stillness that people instinctively want to be near, even if they don't understand why. Carl Jung called this synchronicity, those subtle, meaningful connections that aren't accidental, but soul-level encounters guided by unseen forces. When someone finds small excuses to enter your space, it's often their unconscious trying to access something within your energy, something that feels calming, safe, or quietly magnetic. You may think you're just being nice or available, but underneath, you're radiating something powerful, spiritual wisdom that others can feel, even if you can't yet see it yourself. This kind of pull has nothing to do with loudness or outward confidence. In fact, it's the opposite. The less you try, the more naturally attractive you become. There's a stillness in you, a depth that silently communicates safety. Your grounded energy becomes a refuge. And people, often unknowingly, are drawn to those who feel like home in a world that rarely slows down. At work, in friendships, even in public spaces, notice how people tend to gravitate toward you. They might ask a question they could easily Google, stand next to you when there's plenty of other space, or find a reason to talk about nothing at all. It may feel random, but it's not. You've become a kind of energetic anchor. It's the kind of spiritual wisdom that doesn't come from reading books. It comes from life, pain, healing, and inner alignment. When someone's inner world is chaotic, your energy feels like silence in a noisy room. They don't want to admit they're seeking peace, but they know where to find it. It's like the story of a man who always found comfort in sitting near his grandmother's chair, even in silence. He never asked her for advice or conversation. Just being near her made his world feel less heavy. That's the kind of presence you now carry. You don't need to speak words of wisdom. Your energy is the wisdom. You've transmuted your own pain into quiet strength, and now others unconsciously sense it. That's why they show up again and again for no reason. The more spiritually aligned you become, the less effort you need to connect. Energy does the talking. People don't remember what you said as much as they remember how they felt around you. You're not just someone to talk to. You're someone to feel safe with. And that is a rare form of attractiveness that far surpasses beauty or charm. It's spiritual gravity. They're not drawn to your answers. They're drawn to your stillness. So when someone seeks you out for something small, pause before brushing it off. That moment is a mirror, not of their need, but of your impact. Without knowing it, you've become the silent force in the room. And that is the kind of presence the world desperately needs. If this message resonates with your spirit, say it with me. I welcome these connections as divine guidance. I trust the energy that draws people toward me. Sign 5. Women criticize you without reason. When you walk into a room and suddenly feel a chill in the air, side glances, passive-aggressive comments, or unfair judgment from women who barely know you, it's not always about something you've done. Often, it's a mirror being held up to parts of themselves they're not ready to face. Carl Jung called this shadow projection a psychological process where people unconsciously reject and criticize traits in others that they've disowned within themselves. Your quiet confidence, your ability to move through life without needing validation, your unapologetic presence, these things stir something deep in them. Not hatred, but discomfort. Not because of who you are, but because of how deeply you reflect who they are not allowing themselves to be. When a woman has spent her life conforming, dimming her voice, softening her strength, hiding her depth, she may unconsciously feel threatened by someone who simply shows up as her whole self. Your freedom reminds her of her own chains. Your authenticity makes her question her performance. And rather than sit with that discomfort, the ego chooses defense through criticism, judgment, or silence. It's not personal. It's energetic. It's spiritual. It's the collision between who she pretends to be and who she's afraid to become. This is one of the hidden signs of true attractiveness. Not the kind that turns heads, but the kind that shifts frequencies. The kind born from self-awareness, emotional resilience, and spiritual awakening. You carry a glow that can't be faked, a magnetism that comes from owning your story, your healing, your presence. And even when you're unaware of it, others can feel it. It's in the way you walk, the way you say no without guilt, the way your energy speaks before your mouth does. People don't always respond kindly to that kind of light, especially if they're still trapped in the shadows of self-doubt and comparison. But that doesn't mean you shrink. That doesn't mean you silence yourself or carry the weight of their projections. What it means is that your presence is working. You're shaking things loose. You're awakening something, sometimes resistance, sometimes curiosity, but always movement. And that is the quiet power of spiritual wisdom, to be a living invitation for others to remember their own truth, even if it first shows up as discomfort. So, when you're criticized for simply being, understand that your light is not a threat, it's a reminder of what's possible, a reflection of who they could be if they chose healing over hiding. And in that moment, the most powerful thing you can do is stay centered. Let them project. Let them stir. Let your energy speak louder than their words. Because what's happening isn't rejection. It's a revelation. And your soul already knows the difference. Stay connected with our empowering community by subscribing to our channel. Here, we explore deep truths about energy, healing, and spiritual growth. Remember, when others project their shadows onto you, it's not a reflection of your worth, but of your light. You are seen, you are strong, and you are rising. Sign 6. Strangers smile at you for no reason. Strangers don't just smile at you by accident. It's not always about flirtation or politeness. It's something far more profound. When someone smiles at you without knowing why, it's often a subconscious response to the quiet power you carry within. According to Carl Jung, when a person begins to integrate the unconscious parts of themselves, the shadow, the inner child, the repressed truths, they emit a unique energy. This isn't loud or attention-seeking. It's soft, grounded, and whole. It's the kind of presence that doesn't demand a room, but naturally shifts it. This energy is what Jung referred to as archetypal wholeness. It's when your inner world is no longer at war with itself. You're not performing or chasing approval. You're simply being, and that beingness carries a magnetic frequency that others can feel, even if they don't know what it is. A smile from a stranger becomes a moment of recognition, not of your clothes, not your face, but your presence. It's their soul responding to yours, because something about you reminds them of the version of themselves they long to be present, peaceful, and free. There's a quiet woman who works in an old bookstore in the city. She never wears flashy clothes, doesn't say much, and yet customers are drawn to her like a flame. People smile at her in line. Strangers linger in her presence without knowing why. One afternoon, a man looked at her and said, "You feel like home." She didn't know what to say, but she remembered Jung's words. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. That's what people feel when they smile at you for no reason. They feel someone who is becoming real. Most people are fragmented. They're performing identities, running from pain, trying to be what others expect. But when you stop doing that, when you come home to yourself, you glow differently. You move with a rhythm that's not forced. Your silence becomes louder than noise. You don't need to say much, because your energy speaks volumes. And that energy, that authenticity, is what draws people in. Carl Jung believed that true transformation happens not by becoming better, but by becoming whole. When you're whole, you don't seek attention. You attract connection. You don't manipulate your image. You embody truth. And people can't help but respond to that. A smile from a stranger becomes the world's way of whispering, "I see you." It's not an admiration. It resonates. So if people are smiling at you out of nowhere, it's because your energy is safe. It's integrated. It's healing. You've done work that most don't even dare to start. And the world is quietly bowing to that. Do you believe that your energy speaks before you even say a word? If you do, declare it in the comments. My wholeness shines, and the world feels it. Sign 7. Men in relationships look at you. Often. There are moments when you catch someone looking at you a little too long, and it's not because of how you're dressed or what you said. It's something deeper. Even men who are already in relationships find their eyes drifting in your direction, not out of disrespect to their partners, but because something within them is stirred when you walk into the room. You didn't plan it, you didn't provoke it, yet it happens. Carl Jung would say it's the anima, the hidden feminine energy inside every man being activated by your presence. This isn't about physical attraction in the usual sense. It's about unconscious recognition. You become a reflection of a part of them they've ignored, buried, or never dared to explore. When a woman walks in her truth, radiates emotional depth, and holds her energy with quiet power, something about her presence becomes undeniable. You don't have to say a word. Your energy already speaks volumes. You may think you're just being yourself, maybe even doubting your own impact, but others feel something they can't quite explain. It's not that you're trying to be attractive. It's that you've tapped into a rare form of spiritual wisdom, one that doesn't seek attention, but commands it simply by existing. This kind of magnetism can be unsettling for others, especially for men who have not yet done the inner work to integrate their own emotional world. They might look at you and feel things they can't name: longing, nostalgia, a pull towards something familiar yet unknown. It's not about you being better than their partner. It's about your presence awakening a forgotten part of their soul, a part that senses your calm, your wholeness, your freedom, and it calls to them like a memory they didn't know they lost. You'll notice these moments in the most ordinary situations: standing in an elevator, walking into a meeting, or even just sipping coffee in a quiet cafe. There's nothing loud about your aura, yet people turn. Their eyes search for something, but it's not your appearance they're drawn to. It's your energy, the stillness within you, the way you listen deeply, the effortless grace that surrounds you like a field of light. They don't understand it, but they feel it. And so they look, sometimes again and again. You are not responsible for their reactions. This kind of unconscious attraction isn't something you control, and it's certainly not something you manipulate. What you're experiencing is the natural result of spiritual embodiment. Your inner alignment, your emotional maturity, your sacred boundaries, they radiate from within and touch others, often more than they or you realize. The more you trust this truth, the less you'll feel the need to apologize for your presence. Don't shrink. Don't question your worth. And most of all, don't carry guilt for the attention that follows your light. Carl Jung's wisdom reminds us that what is unconscious will always seek to be made conscious. And you In simply being who you are, help others come into contact with what they've forgotten within themselves. That is the power of spiritual wisdom. It doesn't have to be loud to be heard. It's felt in the silence, seen in the stillness, and remembered in the soul. Don't forget to subscribe for more spiritual wisdom on how your presence speaks louder than words, and why even taken hearts can't help but respond to your light. Sign 8. You receive online attention without trying. You post something simple online with no filter, no curated aesthetic, just a spontaneous thought or a blurry photo, and it somehow gets more likes, more comments, more attention than you expected. You weren't trying to be impressive, and yet something about you made people stop and notice. According to Carl Jung, this isn't random. It's the result of individuation when a person embodies their most authentic, undivided self. While most people mold their online presence to fit in, you unknowingly stand out because you've stopped pretending. That rawness, that refusal to perform, radiates an energy others can feel, even through a screen. You're not chasing approval. You're not trying to be seen. And ironically, that's exactly why people are drawn to you. When someone is deeply connected to their inner truth, they emanate a kind of magnetic calm. Jung believed this came from the integration of the shadow and the self, the parts of us we've made peace with, rather than hidden. It's a subtle glow, not a spotlight. And this quiet self-possession is incredibly rare in a world addicted to validation. You may not even realize how spiritually powerful that makes you, but those around you do. Your presence online feels different. It's not noise, it's resonance. This is the beauty of spiritual awakening. You no longer try to be anything for anyone. You simply are. And that being communicates far more than words ever could. While others strive for relevance, your realness creates remembrance. You remind people on a subconscious level of what it feels like to be whole. That's why even a passing post from you can linger in someone's mind. You aren't trying to influence, you're embodying alignment. And this frequency cuts through the digital noise like a bell of clarity. What makes this even more powerful is your unawareness of it. Jung taught that when the ego isn't grasping for attention, the soul takes the lead. You don't posture or project. You express. You don't market your worth. You exist in it. And this ease with yourself makes others feel safe, seen, and curious. That's the energy people can't explain, but are intuitively drawn to. In their scroll of polished personas, they stop when they reach yours. Not because it's edited to perfection, but because it's real. You don't have to overthink what to post, what to write, or how to appear. Your spiritual awakening has already made you luminous. And even if your conscious mind hasn't caught up to that fact, your energy speaks before you do. Your essence, transmitted effortlessly through the mundane, reminds others of something sacred within themselves. This is the invisible thread that binds your subtle power to their silent longing. You don't need to try harder. You just need to keep being you. If you're still with us, drop a comment below saying, "I'm radiating authenticity." Your presence matters, and your voice helps this community grow stronger. Sign 9. Men get confused around you. Some men seem captivated by your energy, only to pull away and vanish, then return without explanation. It's not a game they're playing. It's a psychological reaction to something deep within them that your presence activates. Carl Jung called this phenomenon enantiodromia, when one extreme flips into its opposite. In this case, intense attraction flips into withdrawal. Not because the attraction has disappeared, but because it has become overwhelming. Your presence isn't just physically appealing, it's emotionally and spiritually activating. You may not realize it, but your very existence stirs something unconscious in others. When you're on a path of spiritual awakening, your aura becomes a mirror. You reflect truth, depth, and authenticity. This can make someone feel profoundly seen, often more than they're ready for. For men who haven't confronted their own emotional wounds or shadow selves, this level of intimacy can be terrifying. They're not running from you. They're running from the parts of themselves they don't yet understand or want to face. What feels like mixed signals or emotional confusion is often their internal tug of war between desire and fear, curiosity and resistance. There was a woman named Leah who once shared her experience with a man who seemed enchanted by her spirit, her calm, her depth, her grounded presence. Yet every time they grew closer, he would retreat, creating distance without warning. When she finally asked him why, he said, "You make me feel like I'm being watched from the inside. It's like you see who I am before I do." That kind of vulnerability frightened him. Leah didn't need to change. She only needed to understand that her presence was powerful enough to awaken the parts of him that still lived in hiding. Jung taught that when we meet someone who challenges the boundaries of our self-image, the psyche often resists. Your presence may unconsciously force a man to confront questions like, "Am I enough? Can I handle this depth? Do I feel worthy of her?" When those answers aren't clear within him, he may act out in confusing ways, disappearing, then resurfacing, only to disappear again. This cycle has less to do with your actions and more to do with the energy you carry. If this has happened to you, understand this clearly. Your attractiveness doesn't just come from how you look. It comes from how you feel to be near you, is to be stirred, awakened, confronted, and cracked open. You carry spiritual wisdom, whether you speak it or not. And those who aren't prepared to evolve may confuse your calm for intensity, your authenticity for pressure, your energy for something too much. But it's not too much. It's the truth they're not ready for. This is not a sign to shrink. It's a sign to rise. Your energy is not a burden, it's a blessing. Some people are meant to be disrupted by you. Some are meant to pause in your presence and realize they have healing to do. And some will rise to meet you in your light, not run from it. The man who can handle your energy will never be confused by it. He will recognize it as the gift it is. If this message resonates with you, give this video a like and share it with someone who's ever been left confused by mixed signals. Let's keep this conversation going. Drop a comment below if you've ever felt this strange pull and push dynamic. There's more to uncover, and we're just getting started. Sign 10. You don't realize your own power. You question your worth, yet leave deep impressions everywhere you go. Without even trying, your presence lingers in people's minds. You think you're ordinary, maybe even invisible, but others feel something different around you. It's not about your words, your clothes, or the way you walk. It's about the energy you carry. You radiate a quiet power, the kind that doesn't scream to be noticed, but is impossible to ignore. While others perform to be seen, you just are, and that's exactly what draws people in. Your calmness is magnetic. In a chaotic world, your stillness feels like sanctuary. You may not recognize it as beauty or strength, but those who encounter it do. Spiritual wisdom lives in you. It's woven into the way you listen without interrupting, the way you remain grounded when others are reactive, the way your authenticity holds space for truth. That's the kind of power that doesn't fade or depend on trends. It's timeless. It's sacred. You don't chase validation, yet you're deeply admired. While you're busy wondering if you're enough, others are comforted just by your presence. You bring warmth without noise. You heal without effort. And it confuses people because how can someone so effortless have such influence? But it's not effort, it's alignment. Carl Jung believed that the unconscious speaks through behavior we don't recognize. That's what's happening here. Your hidden magnetism comes from how deeply you're aligned with your true self, even when you doubt it. You don't demand attention, but you command respect. It's not about charm. It's not performance. It's presence. There's a gravity in you, subtle but undeniable. You carry a softness that isn't weakness. It's the kind of softness that disarms pride, invites honesty, and creates trust. People are drawn to you because you give them space to breathe. You aren't trying to impress them, and that's what makes you unforgettable. You think you're quiet. They think you're mysterious. You think you're just minding your business. They feel like they've encountered someone rare. You think you're simply being polite. They walk away feeling seen, heard, and even healed. That's not an accident. That's spiritual wisdom radiating through you, speaking louder than words ever could. This isn't about arrogance. It's not about calling yourself powerful to feel superior. It's about recognizing the invisible ways you carry light without even noticing it. You soothe storms in people without realizing you've done it. Your energy enters rooms before you do, and long after you leave, something of you stays behind. There is something holy in being this kind of presence, something transcendent. When you stop underestimating your effect on others, you begin to see the truth. Your attractiveness was never about looks. It was about soul, about frequency, about the way you bring peace in a world addicted to noise. That's the truth of your power. That's the beauty of your unspoken influence. Affirm your hidden strength today by commenting below. My quiet presence is powerful. Let this be your daily reminder that true impact doesn't need to be loud. You are already shifting the atmosphere just by being you. Sign 11. Your absence is noticed more than your presence. You don't need to speak loudly to be heard. Your presence carries an energy that fills a space without demanding attention. And the moment you leave, something shifts. People might not say it out loud, but they feel the absence like the room just lost its center of gravity. This is more than emotion. It's energy. Carl Jung called it the idea that your psychological presence forms a container, a field in which others feel held, understood, even if they can't explain why. You may not make a grand entrance. You don't need to dominate conversations or draw all eyes to you. But your spiritual awakening has created a frequency that people instinctively tune into. When you're around, there's a sense of calm, a warmth, a quiet clarity. When you're gone, they miss that even if they don't fully understand what they're missing. You don't just walk into spaces, you hold them. That's why people feel slightly unmoored when you're no longer there. This is not about beauty in the traditional sense. This is spiritual wisdom in motion. When someone is walking a path of self-awareness, healing, and inner peace, their presence starts to shift the energy of those around them. You become a mirror without trying to be. People feel more themselves in your presence, or suddenly face parts of themselves they've been avoiding. That's why your absence can be louder than your words ever were. Because your very being has become a kind of sacred space. And when that space is no longer there, people feel it in the air. Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." When you do that, when you embody who you are with alignment and inner clarity, you don't have to prove your worth. Your silence becomes magnetic. Your stillness becomes a force. You don't chase attention. You simply carry an energy that others are drawn to sometimes without understanding why. But the truth is, your spiritual awakening has made you luminous in ways the physical eye can't always see. You are the kind of person others think about after they leave the room. The kind whose words echo long after the conversation ends. Not because you tried to be unforgettable, but because your soul left an imprint. This is the power of subtle presence. This is the hidden sign of true attraction, not the kind that fades with time, but the kind that deepens in silence. If this message resonates with your soul, leave a comment of truth. My presence carries meaning, even in my silence. I trust the energy I bring is divine. Let this be your reminder that you don't need to prove your worth. Your absence already speaks it. Sign 12. Silence with you. Feels intense, not awkward. You have a gift that most people overlook. When you're with someone and there's silence, it doesn't feel awkward. It feels magnetic, like something important is happening beneath the surface. You don't rush to fill the space with words, and that very stillness makes people feel more connected to you. They don't always understand why, but your quiet presence pulls them in. Carl Jung called this kind of connection active imagination, where silence becomes a bridge between the conscious and unconscious. When you're near, people unconsciously feel that they're stepping into a deeper layer of meaning. The moment becomes more than just the absence of noise. It becomes a space where energy is exchanged, where truth is felt instead of spoken. This isn't just a personality trait. It's a powerful sign of emotional depth and spiritual magnetism. In a world that constantly pushes noise, validation, and superficial interaction, your ability to embrace silence is rare. People don't always remember what you said, but they will remember how peaceful they felt around you. The stillness you bring allows their nervous system to relax. Without saying a word, you offer them the kind of emotional safety that most are quietly longing for. That's what makes you so attractive. Your presence alone shifts the atmosphere. Think of those modern situations where everyone's glued to their phones at dinner or nervously chatting to avoid awkward silences. Then there's you, the one who can just be with someone. You don't flinch in the quiet. You don't need to prove anything. And that subtle strength is disarming. It makes people feel like they can drop the act, exhale, and reconnect with something real. This isn't just about charisma, it's about presence. And Carl Jung's spiritual wisdom teaches us that presence is far more powerful than performance. There's a story of a woman in a busy corporate world, always calm, often quiet. She speaks little, but when she does, people listen. Her coworkers can't explain it, but they find themselves drawn to her, almost comforted just by sitting next to her. She doesn't have to lead the conversation. She is calm in the room. That's the unspoken beauty of someone whose silence carries meaning. It's not about being the loudest. It's about being the most grounded. Jung once said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around you. but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important. And when you can make others feel understood without speaking, you become unforgettable. The truth is, attraction doesn't always flash like lightning. Sometimes, it lingers like a still lake at dawn, peaceful, deep, and full of reflection. That's you. You don't attract through noise, you attract through resonance. And whether you realize it or not, that spiritual depth is what makes people feel like they've met someone unlike anyone else. To affirm the quiet power you carry, comment below, "My silence speaks volumes." Let this be your reminder that even in stillness, you are deeply felt, and your presence is a gift. Remember, true attractiveness isn't something you see in the mirror. It's the silent power you carry in your energy, your presence, and the way you make others feel without even trying. The most captivating people are often the ones who don't even realize their impact. If any of these hidden signs spoke to you today, it's a gentle reminder. Your light is seen, even when you don't see it yourself. If you found value in this message, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Spiritual Wisdom. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss our upcoming videos that dive deep into the truths of the soul and the mind. And tell us in the comments, did you recognize any of these signs in yourself? We'd love to hear your story.